everybody, welcome back to the show. This is the Mental Breakdown. I'm your host, Joey Velez. Happy Friday. We made it. Work week is now done. And you have the choice of, do you want it to be a nice and relaxing weekend, or do you want to go out and be crazy and have a lot of fun? Either way, just know that you earned it. And I think that's something I'm grateful for. Sure, we could always have longer weekends. But I think one thing I am grateful for is that we do have this built-in break into our weeks, and we have the freedom to do what I want to do with those couple days. Do I do chores? Do I do some extra work? Do I go work out and play sports? Do I just sit around a lounge and do nothing and binge Netflix, which is what I've been known to do from time to time? Um, but I think I'm just grateful to be in a position where I have the opportunity to do the things that I enjoy. So here's to another weekend. Now, something that came up on my feed, it was actually a Steph Curry quote that I'm going to read to you here in a second. And the quote says, "I'm human. Like everybody, you have doubts about yourself. You have imposter syndrome at times. Are you doing everything you can to take care of the people that are relying on you? Are you fulfilling your potential in all different areas? Like those are daily commitments and daily thoughts that you kind of have to weave through." So the reason I bring this up, and he's talking about imposter syndrome, whether I feel like I belong or not, if people are going to find me out. He's talked about having self-doubts in his skill set. And I think one, this shows that these sort of thoughts happen to everybody, not just us at the novice or recreational level of what we do, but also those at the highest of the highs have the same type of thoughts. But I think what differs is the response to those thoughts. And I oftentimes equate this to when people say that uh, professionals or elite athletes think that failure is not an option. Well, no, they're smart people. They know that if you go into a game, you're going to win or lose. Like failing is a potential outcome, but they're going to focus on what I need to do to be successful. And I think the same applies here for Steph Curry talking about the imposter syndrome. Yes, like those doubts are going to pop into my mind and my thinking brain, but I choose where to place my attention. I choose what I want to focus on instead of the fact that I may let people down. Well, what do I need to do to make sure that doesn't happen? So I think one of the things to think about is, how do I go about breaking this cycle? How do I go about dealing or working with the fact that sometimes I do feel like an imposter? And I think one of the things you can do is share your feelings, right? Because what the research says is that sharing your feelings with other people can not only help reduce the sense of loneliness that oftentimes is accompanied with imposter syndrome, but I think it also opens the doors for others to share what they see in you. So if I'm talking about how I feel like I'm not good enough, that gives the opportunity for other people to say, like, no, that's not true, and here's why. Well, maybe that helps you deal with the imposter syndrome just a little bit more effectively. It may not go away, but maybe it shows you the other side of what you're thinking. I think what also is important to do is to celebrate your successes. People who struggle with imposter feelings tend to brush off the things that they do well. If somebody congratulates you, don't be so quick to move on from that. Pay attention to how you respond to yourselves in those moments and allow yourself to speak more positively, more productively about yourself. And you don't have to just focus on the successes. It's not about eliminating failures, because I think the other thing you can do is also share your failures. Discussing those failures, those weak points to other people can maybe help paint a more realistic picture of not only what you're going through, what other people are going through. And I think if I'm feeling like an imposter and I share some of the challenges I'm having, and someone else is also experiencing those things, well, maybe there's now like a shared sense of connectedness. We can go through this together. Or, hey, maybe that person experienced something similar and they did something to kind of get out of it. So maybe I can learn from it. So those two kind of go hand in hand, being able to celebrate your successes, but also being willing to talk about your failures. I think another thing that comes with imposter syndrome is this idea of self-compassion. It becomes a little bit more challenging. So I think one thing is learning to recognize when, these imposter feelings surface, but then learning to be okay with them. learning to be okay that maybe I didn't achieve exactly what I wanted, but I did my best in trying to achieve those outcomes. But here's what I can do to be better, right? So I think sometimes it's really about acknowledging what you're experiencing, acknowledging that you don't feel okay, and letting yourself know that this isn't the end or it doesn't have to be the end. We can still press forward through this. And then I think lastly, another thing that's really associated with imposter syndrome, excuse me, is this idea of perfectionism. I think perfectionism gets a bad rap. I think it's okay to strive to be the best that you can be, but I think there's a difference between trying to be perfect and striving for perfection. If I'm trying to be perfect, as soon as I make a mistake, well, now perfection is out the window, and what's the point of me trying anymore? But if I'm striving for perfection and along the way I achieve excellence, sure, I didn't achieve the exact result I want, but I can be proud in the fact that I still performed pretty damn good. So I think when it comes to imposter syndrome and perfectionism, it's about adjusting your standards. What does success truly mean? And then being able to internalize, like when you do a good job, maybe it isn't perfection per se, but dang it, like I want to achieve my process and got a really good result. So maybe I can be happy about that, but still acknowledge that there are different ways that I can improve. With that, I think it's also focusing on your progress. I think sometimes we set our standards too high to the point they're unreachable. So maybe we have to learn to be okay with just being good enough for that day. I still am better than most of the people at what just happened. I still rocked my process, but I didn't achieve the outcome I want, and that's okay. Like I can continue to build to get better. So I think one thing to think about is that these thoughts can become natural, can become normal, but that doesn't mean it has to be the end of the world. It doesn't have to mean that you are out of luck in terms of performing at the highest level. Because I think the higher you reach in performance, these thoughts are going to creep in for sure. So instead of eliminating them, let's learn to work with them. Let's learn to live with them. And I think it starts by adjusting your focus. You can do that by sharing your experience, by celebrating the good and the bad that happen within your performance, but also being able to learn how to be more compassionate towards yourself. It's easier for us to be compassionate towards other people. It's harder for us to be compassionate towards ourselves, but then also adjust what it means to be successful. Success doesn't have to mean I need to be perfect. Maybe success is just I focus on achieving my process and then just live with whatever the result is. And that's what I have for you all today. So imposter syndrome and different ways that you can work with those particular types of feelings. So have a good rest of your day. Hopefully the weekend is a wonderful one. And just like always, don't forget today's a great day to make an impact. All right, y'all. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.